Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Corey, better known as the Seaman. I want to welcome you to another edition of the Seaman's Cinema Sitdown. The Christmas season brings with it, a wonderful time with family and friends, usually fantastic food, sometimes really, really awesome presents. And for the old Seaman, it always is bringing some movies. One of the movies that came out on Christmas that I wanted to go see Christmas Day, didn't get a chance to, but have seen since. Oh, dude, it does not disappoint in the least. I was, albeit at first, nervous when I heard they were going to remake this movie. I went, oh no, this is a really, classic movie, and referring to the 1994 one. That's the one I grew up with. And yes, it's been done multiple times, so it makes sense for it to come back around. But, when you love a movie, when you grow up with a movie, to see it get touched, you're always kind of whatever. And then you hear Greta Gerwig, Saoirse Ronan, Emma Watson. The list goes on and on and on. The huge cast, all the people working on this movie. And easily I kind of sank back down and went, all right, no, I'm okay with this. This will be good. Now I'm excited. And when it came out, I was fired up. And boy, did it deliver. Greta Gerwig should be so proud of herself. She absolutely hits this one out of the ballpark, which is no shock, I don't think, to anybody. What are we talking about? Why don't you pull up a chair, man? Take a seat. We're getting ready to dive in spoiler-free into Little Women. And that's right, man. This is a classic story. Classic movie. The 1994 one is a classic for me. I grew up with it. It's one of my mom's favorite films. We'd watch it, a bunch when I was a kid. We actually just rewatched it together about a month ago, which was a lot of fun. And it's one of those stories that's timeless, man. It doesn't matter when you pop it in, whether you're a little kid in the 90s or a 33-year-old man in almost the 2020s. And, it transcends time. It's still valid and important, and you can connect to elements and themes of the movie now, maybe even more so than back in 94. And Gerwig does such a wonderful job of sticking to the story. That's the key, man. When you remake something that's as timeless as Little Women, that's been done as many times, television versions, multiple iterations on the big screen, some that are revered, for me, as classic movies. The reason they work over and over again, and the reason you can keep doing it over and over again, is the story, man. The story is what drives Little Women. And if you stick to the core story and you hit the main beats and big elements, the movie should almost always work if the people who are coming to play are gaming up to the task. And everybody came to play for this movie. And what's really nice for Gerwig is when you watch it, you get the sense of someone making this movie who loves Little Women. You can tell that she's connected to the material. You can tell that, at least for me, the 94 version probably had an impact on her in the things that she kind of makes odes to or pays homage to the things that she decides to do that were in, past movies, or things that weren't in them. And the things she shows and decides not to show or pick and chooses to things that add or subtract all really work quite well because the story is so strong. And she highlights all those elements in just beautiful, brilliant ways. I mean, the first thing I always think of when I think of Little Women, I think of Laurie and Joe dancing outside the party together, just having a ball, letting themselves go loose and get crazy, and watching Christian Bale and Winona Ryder do that is just an image that's burned in my brain. And to watch Saoirse Ronan and Timothée Chalamet do it here, not only do they own it as their own thing, but because of the characters, they're so in tune with the characters, you get elements or moments that feel like, for me, what Winona or Bale did. And it wasn't because they're imitating, it's because they're just inherently capturing the essence of the characters perfectly. And Gerwig gets the best out of all her actors. And granted, she has a stellar lineup, so it shouldn't be too hard, but they do. They all show up. They all come to play. And what she does with them is wonderful, as well as what she did with the story. And then you take the visual, and Gerwig is a slam dunk director, man. Her vision is so clear. She always knows where she's going in her films. And you get that, the pacing. And again, it's just something that's always moving forward. It's never slowing down. It's never backing up. And the thing that's tricky with Little Women is that bouncing back and forth between the past and the present. And Gerwig slam dunks it, man. She figures out a way to sync them up perfectly, where there are moments that I liked even more than I did in the 94 version. I was like, man, that was awesome. And some of the shots she has, there's a shot of Joe and Beth on the beach. It's just wonderful, man. It's down low, it's up front, the wind's blowing so you can see some of the sand coming up, and it's just moments like that where you go, that's why this is one of those special directors. And the other thing that Gerwig does really, really well here is highlighting some of the girls a little bit stronger, a little bit better. They all had one major moment in this movie that kind of stuck a little bit better than the 94 one for me, where it was like I felt like Beth had a little bit more to do, or we got to know Beth a little bit better. And then the Amy conundrum. The thing that's always bugged me about the 94 version is you fall in love with little Kirsten Dunst's performance as Amy, and then when she grows up, it's all of a sudden this different actor. And back then you were like, I wish Dunst was like just old enough where she could have pulled off playing the older version the way all the other girls do. And here, Gerwig says, hey, you know what? I'm just have the same actor do it front to back. And I'm not gonna lie, it's a little weird at the beginning. Florence Pugh playing a younger Amy, she looks like she's the same age as all the other girls, even looks, to me, older than Beth does. But the way she acts, it takes a little bit to get used to it, but the ultimate payoff, the connection that you have to Amy is so much stronger here because it is the same actress all the way through. And Pugh plays young Amy stupendously and so differently from old Amy. And when you see the two differences in how she matures, it does feel like two different characters, but it's being played by one. So that connection is stronger. It's what you wanted to get out of the performance with Kirsten Dunst in 1994 that you weren't able to get because she was too young. A risk, something that paid off. And anything that Gerwig tried to do here worked really well. And the performances really help because they're phenomenal. No shock, Saoirse Ronan as Jo March was a slam dunk knockout, man. She captures that effervescent, youthful excitement that just surges through Jo that we got out of Winona. That's why there are moments in this movie. I think she says capital at one time. The way she did it, I immediately was like, oh man, it's just like Winona. And it's not because she's imitating her. No, Ronan is doing her own thing here. She's totally her own character, but because both of them knocked the character out of the ballpark when they did it, they're inherently Jo, and that's the way Jo would act. I feel very similarly to Laurie and what Timothée Chalamet does. There are moments in this movie where it's like spot on Bale, but he's not imitating Bale. He's, again, taking it and doing his own version of Laurie. But Laurie is a very specific character. There's a moment in the movie that's on a wide shot, and you can't see any faces, but you can spot Laurie right away because of what he's wearing and how he's walking, how he's carrying himself. And watching Ronan and Chalamet on screen together is just wonderful, man. It's the same way you felt when Bale and Ryder did it, man. And it's because of that you feel this connection where it's, oh, this makes me think of the 94 movie because they are these characters. They're knocking it out of the park. They're crushing it. And the newer things and the little things that they bring that are different elevate the characters, elevate the performances, and you're just so glued to the screen, specifically when they're both on it. Chalamet is brilliant, dude. He plays Laurie so well, as does Ronan with Jo. And the rest of the cast here is also spectacular. I mean, you have Emma Watson as Meg, does a really good job and gets one of, like I said, each of the girls get a really, really strong emotional moment. And Emma Watson is wonderful, and I love just watching how she plays and mixes in with everybody. When she has her moments where Jo's not around, it's just her. She shines, and I thoroughly enjoyed Watson. As I mentioned already, Pugh is fantastic. She handles the young and the older version of Amy quite well, and she just grips you and pulls you in where you're kind of just locked in on what she's doing and you're so interested in what's going on with her because she has that ability and she's so strong on screen. Then Eliza Scanlen, I think, like for me, this was the one that stood out the most because Beth can so easily get lost because she's sick the whole movie. And here, I thought Scanlen knocked it out of the park, dude. She crushes you. The sequences that she has with Jo and the way they sync up her fighting the sickness when she was little and then when she's older. Some of the magical things that Gerwig does in this film, and Scanlen just absolutely crushes those, as well as any scene that she has. Chris Cooper, who plays Mr. Lawrence, there is just such a the connection there, as strong as it should be, and Scanlen does a really good job, as does Chris Cooper. Since we're talking about him, he plays Mr. Lawrence, and he's really, really good, dude. Chris Cooper is one of those guys who can be so innately bad, but can just steal your heart when he's good. And his connection and relationship and chemistry with Scanlen is so spot on that you just love those moments in the movie. And of course, you have Laura Dern playing Marmee. Wonderful. And one of the things, again, that Gerwig highlights so well, especially when all the girls are there, are the contact, constantly being touching and in proximity. And the way Marmee is that central figure to bring everybody together constantly. I thought Dern knocked it out of the park. And you feel this connection with these women because of the tight-knit bond they have as family members. And then one of the last things I think Gerwig does here better than what came before her are with her last two male characters. First, Father March. One, you get Bob Odenkirk in there. Bob Odenkirk's fantastic. I love him. He's always bringing so much to even the smallest of roles. But what was nice is once he comes back from the war, Father March is in the movie throughout, and you kind of lose him sometimes in the second half of the movie. Because you're so focused on the girls. And here Odenkirk constantly is there. He's either in the background or involved. And has a couple wonderful moments. So I really enjoyed his performance. And then the way Gerwig decided to handle Friedrich. I understand the story. And the performances are wonderful. But watching Gabriel Byrne and Winona Ryder, like super young Winona Ryder, fall in love, it is uncomfortable, at least for me to watch, because the age gap is massive. Gerwig shrinks that here, man. Friedrich seems closer to Joe in age. He's probably a little bit older, but because he's younger, you're able to enjoy that connection, I think, more than I did in the 94 one. And it's so hard because you love her and Laurie so much. It was nice to have a face that looked like it fit the part more. And Louis Garrel, who plays Friedrich, just brings a lot to it, man. Like, he's so sincere, and he's soft, and he's earnest. And because he's not a lot older looking, or necessarily a face that you're familiar with, I'm able to enjoy that relationship with Joe. And the way it's built in this movie, I enjoyed more. And then you can't forget Miss Meryl Streep shows up to play Aunt March, and albeit a small role, Streep commands the screen as always and serves two fairly big moments in the movie with really good deliveries and just the little things she does, man. The things she does with her eyes or her facial expressions when she's not talking are almost as powerful as some of the words she says to the girls in the movie. And the other thing that I just love is you can tell everyone here loves Little Women, has some sort of connection to Little Women, because it just comes off in the performances, and clearly the way Gerwig built this thing, you know that she must have loved Little Women growing up. So, like I said, man, this is a perfect film if you do it right, and Gerwig and this cast certainly do that, and then even more, man. I loved this version, and what's wonderful, what's cool is 94, that's a classic for me. That's what I grew up with. And now there's another version for little boys and girls and people to grow up with, so that Little Women is a classic for them, and that's super exciting, and just makes me happy, because it's a story that should be told. It's a story you can take so much from and learn so much from. So I loved Little Women. I thought everyone just knocked it out of the park. But now I want to know what you're thinking, man. What were your thoughts? Did you grow up watching Little Women? Are you connected to the 94 movie? Is this your first go with Little Women? Is this the movie you identify with? What did you like or not like? What was working? Obviously, it is a story that spans, like I said, it's a timeless story. So does it work if it's your version that you're kind of growing up with? Did it adhere to the story? Did it pay homage, tribute to the things that you knew and familiar with? If you've seen the old ones have been around for a little while. Anything you're thinking about Little Women goes down below in the comments. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. If you're new, you want to come hang out with the old C-Man anytime we're talking movies, come join the Cinema Sit-Down squad. Go hit that little subscribe button over there and then the bell that follows so you get alerts every time I make a new video. For the C-Man's Cinema Sit-Down, I'm the C-Man. I'm signing off. Peace. Well, you guys are still here. You must be looking for some more content. Well, don't worry. C-Man's got you covered, man. You got videos like this guy and this guy. And if you haven't yet, and you want to come check out all the C-Man goodies,
Join the Cinema Sit Down Squad, man. Hit that subscribe button. And don't forget to hit the little bell down below that, too, so you can get alerts every time I make new videos.